Sorry, my chapter 3 got interrupted. I have to go back a little bit. My computer went to sleep right in the middle of it, and I didn't want to record the last 10 minutes. So I'm going to repeat just a line or two. Then one Monday morning, Stephen was absent. Same thing on Tuesday and Wednesday. I almost called his house Wednesday night to make sure he wasn't dying or something, because the thought of school without Stephen was suddenly the worst thing I can imagine. When he got off his bus on Thursday morning, I wanted to run over and give him a big hug. Of course, I didn't. But that's when I decided that Stephen was going to be my best friend. He was just so nice because I thought, who could be a better friend than Stephen? And I also thought, if Stephen was my friend, then I could help him because that's what friends do. The best thing that happened during my first year at Philbrook Elementary School was getting to be friends with Stephen Curtis. And the best thing that happened during third grade was when Stephen's family moved to a house down the street from me. And the best thing that's happened all 5 years I've known Stephen is that we've kept getting put into the same classrooms with the same teachers. So I stayed best friends with Stephen, and I kept helping him carefully. Not show-offy, not smarty-pantsy, just some friendly help once in a while. With little things, I was like an extra teacher. Half the time, Stephen didn't even know he needed help or that I was giving it. It was during fourth grade. That's when Stephen started to change. It was after the big test we all had to take at the beginning of fourth grade, the Connecticut Mastery Testing, because Stephen didn't get good scores, and I knew why. I had watched him making faces and chewing his pencil and looking up at the clock every other minute during the test. It was the pressure that got him. Even after all the hours and hours and hours we had spent in class getting ready for the test. I mean, he probably would have done that great even without the pressure because, like I said, as far as schoolwork went, he was an average student. But all the time pressure didn't help, that's for sure. So Stephen's scores on the CMT were sort of low. Not terrible, just low. My scores weren't great either. That's because I found all this information about the test on the internet. I figured out how many questions I had to miss on each section so it would look like I was an average student. My parents weren't happy with my scores, but what could they do? In first, second, and third grades, I had always been an average student, and that's all there was to it. And now the big test just proved it. So I didn't care about my CMT scores at all, but for some reason, Stephen did. He cared about his scores a lot. And from what he said, I guess his parents made a big deal about his test scores too. I noticed a change in Stephen right away. He got mad at himself if he messed up on an assignment or test. He worried about tests and quizzes, spelling tests too, and he was good at spelling. He even started pretending he was sick sometimes so he could stay home from school. And Stephen had never used to do that. The worst part was that he didn't seem as happy. Our fourth grade teacher was Mrs. Rosen, and she was great. She said the test scores didn't mean anything. She called them a snapshot, just a chance to look and see where we needed to improve. She said not to worry if the scores seemed low, because there was plenty of time to improve. I understood her, and all of that was true, but I could tell Stephen didn't believe Miss Rosen. He felt like he wasn't good at school anymore. He felt like school was a struggle. And Stephen wasn't the only one. All the kids started keeping track of test scores and homework grades. School was suddenly all about the competitions, and grades were how you could tell the winners from the losers. Every assignment and quiz became a contest. I even saw a couple of kids cheating on a spelling test. Then, in the middle of fourth grade, 3 kids from our class were chosen to be in the Gifted and Talented program. The gifted kids went to special classes. They read special books. They had a special teacher. And if they worked hard, they were moved ahead. They could even skip grades. It felt like school had turned into a big race, and it looked like the gifted kids had already won. Which was one more reason that everyone in our class started sorting themselves out into the smart kids and the average kids and the dumb kids. And that was terrible because Stephen started thinking he was one of the dumb kids. It wasn't true, not at all. Not for any of the kids, but that's how Stephen felt. Fourth grade was a miserable year for Stephen. And for me too, because a person can't be happy if her best friend isn't. Stephen was glad when fourth grade ended. It felt like his troubles were over and summer was going to be great, just like always. But I was looking ahead to fifth grade. Stephen didn't know what was coming in fifth grade. He only had one little brother, so Stephen was the first kid in his family to go through the schools in Philbrook, Connecticut. Not me. I knew about fifth grade in Philbrook. I had watched Anne go through fifth grade and then Todd. Fifth grade was when Anne had started turning into a grim little A-making machine with plenty of pushing from mom and dad. Fifth grade grades were real letter grades, just like the junior high and the high school. No more cute pluses and checks and minuses. Fifth grade grades were the real thing. A's and B's and C's and D's and F's. Fifth grade grades could be used to see which kids got into the higher math classes at the junior high. Fifth grade grades could be used to see which kids got into the advanced English classes and the foreign language program and the accelerated science classes. In Philbrook, Connecticut, fifth grade grades mattered. And if Stephen got messed up by the mastery testing and a little competition during fourth grade, then fifth grade was going to feel 10 times worse. When Stephen hit fifth grade, it was going to be like a train wreck. During this first grading term, I had seen it already starting to happen. It could only get worse unless someone thought up a way to help. And that was my job, because that's what a best friend does. If she can, she helps. And that's what I was thinking about when my mom yelled, "Dinner time!" "And don't forget," she called upstairs to Ann, Todd, and me, "please bring your report cards to the table."